First, Paloma, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here, back in Amsterdam.
Well, it's the start of your tour. So, are you excited? Are you anxious? What is in your mind right now?
I'm really excited about touring in Europe again. I think Holland has been my most big European territory outside of the UK. So it's nice to start here because it fills me with confidence. And I've played here at the Paradiso before and I had such a brilliant time, a great show. So I was really happy to find out that I was playing at the same place again.
So if today goes well, that's like a good omen for the rest of the tour.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we talk about your latest record and the new songs, just quickly, I'd like to go back. Do you remember the first song you fell in love with?
I think the first song I fell in love with in memory is probably Don't Explain, sung by Billie Holiday.
Okay.
Because I was listening to a lot of jazz when I was a child. My parents both really love it. And I just have really good memories of that song, like being one of the first songs I learnt the words to. And it's got a very kind of like beautiful lyric because it's not direct. It's very symbolic.
Is that something that you look up to in Billie Holiday? Is it something then that you try to create in your own music as well?
I think I've tried to embody that kind of tragic, romantic attitude that she has in the past with my first two albums. The album that I'm working on now, that is out now, called A Perfect Contradiction, is much more uplifting. I think I got bored of hearing myself complaining.
But tragic romance, did you have a lot of experience with romance in this way?
Yeah, I think in my life I've been a serial monogamist. I tend to go from one long-term relationship to the next, searching, and with that I've kind of experienced quite a lot of tragedy.
But then in a sense it's also a lot of material to sing about.
I try and be an optimist. Like, I don't regret anything in my life because it's given me a lot to write about.
And then, so I assume then pretty much everything you sing about or write about is autobiographical?
Yeah, everything that I write about is either autobiographical or it's an observation of someone I'm close to. Because I feel like I don't really write songs that are very superficial or surface. So I tend to have to kind of feel very much the emotion of what I'm writing.
And when because you do write with a lot of people, especially on the last album, you've worked with Raphael Saadiq, you've worked with Pharrell Williams, among others. Yeah. So do you then discuss what is written and to embody kind of that emotion or whatever is needed?
Yeah, writing songs for me is a bit like therapy because I go to work with people and, you know, like on this record, you mentioned Raphael Saadiq, Pharrell. I worked with Plan B. I did like a lot of co-writes with different people, and when I go to the studio with them, it's like they become my doctor. I say, I've been experiencing this, or I've been thinking about this, and that's what I want to write about, and then I tell them all the stories.
Does it help then in the same way that therapy does?
I think, yeah, it's kind of therapy is all about acceptance, and I think when you write a song, you kind of solidify a moment in time, and you kind of accept that it was what it was, but it's not necessarily forever. That feeling, it's about a moment. It's helpful to be able to write a song and then say goodbye to those feelings.
That kind of that moment, that mindset in that moment when you wrote the album, what was it?
This album?
Yes.
I think when I wrote A Perfect Contradiction, I was in a very good place. I was reflecting on the past a lot because I met someone who was everything that I'd been hoping for, and I'd started to become like kind of disappointed that what I wanted didn't exist. And when I met this person, I realised that, you know, there was possible to meet someone who was patient and compassionate and loving and just as insecure as I am and very open about it. And I feel like I met my equal. And then, so this album's got a mixture of very positive songs about love, but also kind of songs where I'm thinking back to how ridiculous I am. Like there's a song called Impossible Heart, where I'm almost laughing at how insane I was to keep trying to make things work that obviously weren't going to work. Like there's a line in it where it says, oh, if basically there's a lyric where I say, if you like men, like if you're a guy that likes other men, I'll probably desire you. Like I'm kind of laughing about it. And yeah, and then there's other songs about other people who were going through things when I was writing. It's all a mixture, but I think what ties all my work together is kind of like this constant searching for what makes us the same.
Right.
Like the human condition, desire to find love and be loved and to give love is kind of like a universal search.
Right. Well, with all these experiences that have happened in the past, and when you met this person, did you learn from all those experiences and then notice certain elements?
I think I've learned from my experiences. I always tend to be very absorbent in life. Like I don't let anything go past without reflection. So I think it was good for me to. I've been treated badly and I've behaved badly in the past. And I think when I met this person, I decided that I wasn't going to do either of those things again.
So what was the first song that you wrote after meeting him?
The first song that I wrote was probably Taste My Own Tears, where I was kind of disappointed because it was a long distance relationship. So I'd said to myself, like, why do I always go for something hard? But then when I used to go and visit him, I wrote Take Me, which is like a fun song about getting on the aeroplane just to see someone for 24 hours.
Have you found an answer to that question? Why you always went for kind of unattainable people, or?
I think that when I first met him, I assumed he was unattainable, but I realise now that he wasn't. And I do think that that inability to kind of go for something easy for me is probably, like most things, stems from childhood.
Right. Fair enough. Well, you mentioned it earlier, but the music in itself is quite uplifting, quite energetic.
Yeah.
So was this a conscious decision not to make it too gloomy in terms of what the
I feel
meant?
like you know, my first record, which was Do You Want the Truth or Something Beautiful, was like a mixture, and then the next one after that, Fall to Grace, was very gloomy. I was quite sad when I wrote that. And then I decided like that I wanted to celebrate and I wanted to give people a reason to dance. And even like I used to think to myself, oh, songs which are just joyful are so cheesy and I'm not interested in them. And then I like started looking at songs that were joyful, that weren't necessarily positive, like songs by The Cure or like Candy Statton's Young Hearts Run Free, which is a real disco classic. And I basically built this album based on that research. Like I wanted to write a kind of 70s style record, 70s soul. And they were always doing that in the 70s, like singing about heartache in a really uplifting way.
Right, the
I Will
Motown,
Survive, Young Hearts Run Free. They're like optimistic messages, but they're all quite sad songs.
And then when it came to, because the album was repackaged and there were a couple of new songs written, was the mindset then different, where it was all positive and the songs came out?
No, I'd written quite a lot of the songs from the repack during the writing process, but I just hadn't had enough time to complete the productions and everything. So I compromised because my record company had a deadline. So I said, I want to release these songs, but I want to do them properly. So we had to compromise and say, okay, we'll release these ones now, then we add those.
Right.
So it was supposed to be like 14 or 15 song album.
Okay, and have you started writing them for an upcoming
Yeah, I've
thing?
started writing now. And I've set myself a different challenge this time. Because the first, the second album was sad. This one's optimistic, and they're all about love. And I may change my mind, but at the moment I'm trying to challenge myself to write an album which doesn't involve any songs about love at all.
Well, first of all, how come?
I think because I like challenges, and I also think that I'm very socially aware of what goes on in the world, and I just feel like it's important to me to shed light on other things that are important. Yes, it's important to love, receive and give love, but I also think that our generation is quite self-absorbed. I mean, like, we're obsessed by doing selfies and by what we want, and I feel like this album, for me, is important that I start looking beyond my own desires and needs and start thinking about humanity as a collective responsibility.
Right.
Like when I watch the news, and I'm not writing a political album because I'm not informed enough, but I'm writing, what music is always about for me is feelings, and I'm writing a song about a feeling that I have about the state of the world right now.
Can you give me an example of something that interests you that you're thinking about?
So I'm really interested. I've written some songs about how we should be aware that, like, all of the global wealth in the world really belongs to 1% of the population, and just how disappointing it is. And I've written a song that's kind of like a joyful song about looking towards each other and standing side by side and loving each other, and it's called Raise Your Hands Up, and it's about everyone together raising their hands up to speak. It's not about being angry or about being aggressive. It's about accepting that we all have, if we get together, we can make it better.
And well, your previous album, A Perfect Contradiction, it was released last year. So what is kind of what does the future look like? The songs you're writing now, I suppose they won't be released for a long time.
Well, I'm hoping that I'll write this album quickly, but it's really hard to say, what happens. I might get into a car accident.
Let's hope not.
I hope not.
But okay, and finally, because my time is up, I read that you were very interested in singing the Bond theme.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I've been very patiently waiting to be asked to sing a Bond theme, and I feel like now I'm not patient anymore.
But what do you think makes you a good candidate to sing that song?
I think that I feel a real affinity with the types of women that have done the most iconic Bond songs. Like, I really love Shirley Bassey and I love Tina Turner.
Right.
And I have that kind of level of performance and drama to what I do, and I think that's why I think I'd be a good candidate.
Okay, and then verify the last thing, your favorite Bond song?
My favourite Bond song, Diamonds Are Forever.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.